Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paladins Summer Finals here in 2018. My name is Rain Day, and welcome to the broadcast for today. It's day 3, and we have an incredible amount of high-level games for you to watch. But before we get there, let's talk about where you can watch. Live.skillshot.com is where you can find all of the Paladins action on any platform, and also its own platform to connect with people watching there. So make sure you put that on, either put it in another tab, another window, or have a double monitor setup, however you like to put it. Guys, let's take a look at who's joining me on the desk, because this guy with this vest,
brother,
is beautiful to look at. Nick Keough, Irish Pretty, how are you doing today, man?
Good, brother.
Good.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this one. We've got an international team that's guaranteed themselves a top 3 spot. That hasn't technically been done since PwC. It was, of course, Burrito at that event.
Yeah.
And they have a chance to go even further this time.
And what's crazy is we're going to see later on a matchup that you and I had the pleasure of casting in January. The HRX Finals is going to be revisited, and if you want to join this year's HRX at DreamHack, make sure to take a look at the ticket sales. HighResExpo.com. You can grab your tickets for the November 16th to 18th show, and hopefully this is a little bit of a preview of some of the tight competition you will see there. And let's take a look at the bracket, too, before we get into talking about that third-place matchup, because we still got a lot before that.
Of course, Burrito, Na'Vi up on the top side. The only 2 teams still undefeated in this event, and some big names down in the bottom. Names I didn't expect to see. Fnatic, G2, Envy, undefeated in the Fnatic G2. Someone's going home with an L today.
So what we're going to do today as well is we're going to do the upper bracket, the lower brackets, and I believe the lower bracket round 4 is what we will cover. So we're going to see Fnatic G2. That will be the first matchup. Then we'll watch Envy and Clown Fiesta. Then we'll travel over to Burrito and Not As Sincere. That'll be a third game of the day. And then we'll see the winners of those first 2 losers brackets games against one another. It's going to be... Boy, I mean, action-packed is not even quite enough to describe it.
I think it's worth touching on as well what happened off-stream last night between Keough and Clown Fiesta. So, I know you were definitely in there in the conversation with that rule. Do you want to take us through what happened?
Yeah, so basically we had communicated this yesterday, but there was basically down the pipeline a miscommunication to the players from somewhere along the line of what they understood the rule to be. So as a result of that, in competitive integrity and fairness, we elected to play the game with the additional 1-point advantage that the players understood they should have had. And that way, we actually then allowed that Keough and Clown Fiesta set to continue offline. And what ended up happening was Clown Fiesta actually took the set off of Keough. So as a result, Clown Fiesta have moved forward, and they will be the ones facing, I believe, Envy in the losers bracket today. And that will result in, obviously, the entire bracket being a little bit shifted from what we understood. So just so everyone's aware, that is what took place, and that's how we're going for the rest of the day. Glad we're over that now.
Yeah.
And for clarity's sake as well, heading into the next and every single game, if you do meet someone that you've seen before, I think the only way that would happen was G2 and Envy today.
Yeah, G2 win and Envy win, and then they come together.
The winner would have a +1 advantage. That's how the rest of the tournament will be, and basically the finals would be a full Game 7 reset. You have to win 2 best of 7s.
I hope it happens, man.
That's nutty.
I don't know. Whoever makes it out of the bracket, I'd love to see the potential, maybe even the reset. Whoever loses that Na'Vi Burrito set, it's going to be a really, really awesome tournament here. But this matchup, man, I just keep looking at the names, and I'm like, man, I can't believe it's come to this here.
One's going home.
Best of 3.
That's
Fnatic G2 haven't lost. G2, you got to remember, in the PPL finals earlier this week, crushed Fnatic 4-1.
Absolutely incredible, too, from them, because no one was really expecting their lights-out performance, I think, on Wednesday. And so, Nick, give me your overall thoughts as to why you believe that took place, and what do you think they're poised to do today?
It's so G2, man. It's just hot or cold. It's like, what day of the week is it? Where are the stars in the sky? Whose sign is it coming into fruition?
Exactly.
This team can just look so insane one day, and then, they get beat by a team like Envy that they haven't lost to in months. In another day. It's just kind of wild to me, and hopefully, we get that light show G2 today that is capable of beating Fnatic.
It's weird. It's interesting too, because you don't just see G2 losing to Envy. You see Fnatic losing to Na'Vi, who haven't beaten them in months as well. There's something about the online competition versus the LAN competition against top teams that you've somehow found a way to beat online. Maybe it's a mind game, that shifts it here.
I mean, when you have those scrim partner matchups, right, those are the ones that are hardest to call because those teams know each other inside and out. There's very little that G2 can pull out to surprise Envy. And likewise, right?
Yeah.
And you have to say, in those super hyper-prepared matchups,
right,
Envy do tend to do very well.
Well, this is going to be a big game for Fnatic because remember, last time they lost the Masters LAN, there was some histrionics that were not, I think, positive for them. Very, very depressed, very upset outside, sitting down, heads into their hands. So let's take a look at the interview for how they feel heading into today's matchup, which is win or go home.
All right, we have Field Gary here from Fnatic to start the day off. You guys are going up against G2, surprisingly in the losers bracket. What's the mindset like going into the first game today?
I think this time we played really poorly this LAN so far, except for our game against Navi earlier this week. So just got to look at what we did on the first day, what we do online, and what we're not doing right now that we need to change up going into this best of 3.
It was fun walking in. Keough was kicking the ball around. I got a couple touches with him, and to me it seemed like he didn't have a heavy heart, didn't have a heavy mindset going into today. Are you noticing that he was off yesterday and is feeling a little better in his personality today for you guys?
I don't think it's just Fish being off. I think it's more like us as a whole team. It's just not playing well together right now. Just at least not yesterday.
And going back to the Navi set, I mean, that looked like what we would expect from you guys. What was the thing that changed in your first matchup versus G2? Did it just feel like communication was off, or was the draft not where you wanted it to be?
I think it's hard to tell. It's like a mixture of everything together, but we just didn't play our game after the Navi set, and that's why we don't play well.
My question is, I'm really being honest, is there a level of pressure that you guys feel? I mean, are you nervous or are you worried about potentially having this set go the wrong way? Are you looking down that road, or is it just, here's what we need to do and here's how we're going to win?
I think there's always pressure on us because we have not lost any final yet this year, so there's always a type of pressure, but I think we usually go well with the pressure. Just this time we didn't do anything what we usually do, at least not in the game.
All right, well, it's a best of 3 versus G2. Good luck, guys. Hope we'll see you back.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well, as you heard there, a little bit of pressure probably mounting. Didn't admit to too much of it, but you can tell, Nick, this best of 3 is extremely important to them.
It's hot or cold for both these teams. A little bit more so for G2, but that's what's kind of scary about these best of 3s, because whichever way it goes early might be the way that it just ends up going. And when you look at those young guys from Fnatic who admittedly had terrible performances in their knockout game last LAN at the Masters, you have to look at them and say, hopefully things go well early out of the gate for Fnatic. You had a little bit of a flashback moment there with Bittner yesterday on Serpent Beach, where he had a terrible performance at the Masters LAN. He goes from being 10-1 to 11-8, and it's just a wild 1-7 KD swing for the young lad himself, who is going to be instrumental to this Fnatic victory.
And we've talked a little bit about the draft, but not so much because there's so much history between the performances of these teams, draft notwithstanding, and their characteristics of how they approach lands. And I think in this position, you have to look at how is the draft able to somehow maybe slip you one game, and that early game specifically, because that means you get the first game, you can win the second game, which is pressure on your opponent, and then you get the map pick even if you lose on game 3, which is the clincher.
That's so huge.
That's
in
nuts.
These best of 3s. Well, let's get into it. Let's see where this first map is going to be played between G2 and Fnatic. Best of 3 in the losers bracket. Someone's headed home. The red, white, and blue jerseys are out. G2 hopefully feeling as good as Fnatic.
Yeah.
They seem to be all smiles. It's going to be Ascension Peak.
This scares me.
That smells like a G2 pick.
It does smell like a G2 pick, but if I'm any team, Ascension Peak scares me, man. That is not a comfort pick in a best of 3 situation. G2, I think, feel a little bit more ready to pull out the antics, and I think that's probably their approach.
It smells like a G2 pick, doesn't it? But that's kind of ballsy because they got 0-4'd on it by Envy.
It's rough.
It was a good start, and unfortunately, that server remake, you hate to have it go down that way. I almost say, let them capture that pay, let them get back to 1-0 where they were. Let's get this game state kind of restored. But G2, they're laughing as well, and you got to wonder about the pressure on G2, kind of like the question you asked to Fnatic. Do G2 feel any of that pressure? Because they don't really have the LAN record and the LAN prestige that Fnatic have, but they do have that online record that Fnatic have. They do crush it in the online phase.
And I think, adding Vex here, if they were to have a similar performance, which this would be slightly better, obviously, because they won the spring final, so let's give them that. Much better. But as far as the Masters performance, only slightly better than what they did with Wardoom. So adding Vex, I think, adds a layer of, we have to make sure that this pick worked out in our favor. It already has. We could see that it's helped them in the online phase, but if they can't put it together here, I mean, this is why they brought him to the team.
And you bring up a good point, right? The way that the PPL finals go in the spring, it went the way of Fnatic, right? So, you know, when they did lose the Masters land eventually, first of all, they made it to the final. That might not happen,
right,
given this set here. But they had that sort of consolation prize, I guess. G2 are the ones with that this time around. If Fnatic go home right now, they go home with nothing.
And that's scary because last time they had the most crushing defeat, I would say, of their entire careers, putting it together online. 2 seasons in a row, undefeated, 16-0, and yet to claim that elusive Masters, yet to claim that elusive World Championship. And obviously a lot of trades. Virtus Pro still loaning out Spittner. God, when is he ever going to go back? How does that contract work?
I have no idea. Semantics.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have only loaned LeBron James to the Lakers, and we don't know when he's coming back.
God, you know, it's easy to forget about that happening, but I don't know. That's not our job to worry about, I suppose. This one, it's just, again, crazy to see both of these teams undefeated in NA, undefeated in EU, the #1 seeds clashing this early in the losers bracket. One of these teams is going home way out of the top 3.
And that's going to be the scariest thing. And I think that's what's so exciting about the way this tournament is. You know, I don't know if people are going to be excited, especially from a European side, if Burrito are there, Fnatic are not. But what makes it exciting when this dark horse, this 4th team comes in that no one's really looking at and actually has a big performance, it just makes this tournament so much more up in the air. We don't know at this point. I think that's always really keeping our eyes glued to the screen.
Look at Cloud Fiesta down there. I mean, what the hell is that?
Yeah, no words. Absolutely no words.
Unbe's revenge campaign begins.
He walked
now.
in with a nice, like, little blue sweat, you know, like a little blue polo tee that was like a summer tee right there. He looked like he just got off the boat with his boat shoes and just cruising, man. He's
Don't sleep on that cuddly Estonian, baby.
Do not sleep. Is that where he's from, Estonia?
Yeah.
Very small place. And they are having a couple of just remake issues, which is why we're still here, guys. We are going to get to the game very shortly as they get their computers revved up, ready to go, and in the best possible state to compete for what will be probably the most important first game of a set they've played this year.
It's really, really so much on the line here for both of these teams. And when you look at this, the landscape of who else is in this tournament, it doesn't get any easier from here. The winner of Envy Clown Fiesta, which you have to assume is going to be favored towards Envious at this point. But what the hell? What do we know? Clown Fiesta? Where does that train stop? They've looked pretty good so far here today, and I think Fnatic and G2 a little bit less so. But both of these top teams have had to learn that lesson the hard way, of that you just can't sleep on anyone at this point. As Burrito, one of the international teams, sits undefeated up in the winners bracket, waiting to square off against Na'Vi.
And you could tell that, you know, there's this levity, but man, when I walked outside, and the story I told of walking in and actually seeing Pacheco juggling a soccer ball, and he actually could play a little bit, which was fun to see. You could tell that maybe there's something on his mind. Maybe he decides, let me just play a little bit so I can get it off my mind. I think there is a lot of pressure, especially on him and Spittner, to perform, because when they touted why they didn't win the last couple of lands that they had opportunities to do, you know, kind of slightly pointed fingers that way. Didn't really overtly say it, but they were kind of saying that.
And I wonder how much, if at all, we're going to see from Fnatic that envious effect, where they have to take a pretty hard L, go back home, identify the mistakes, and try and patch their game up from there, because envious always managed to come back incredible from those losses. And it seems like Fnatic are able to identify, they've got a new coach now, they've got Powtech behind them, they're able to try and sort of identify these mistakes. How can we rectify these today?
Well, apologies for the delay, everybody. We are actually going to have to figure that off, and we're going to actually throw to a video right now so that we don't just talk our brains out and you guys keep expecting a game to roll through. We're going to play a great story that I have actually commented on, mentioned about Nick's family and Anthony's journey of how he got here and how this hair became a little less long, still just as pretty. So sit back, watch this, and hopefully we'll be right back with the Fnatic G2 game after that.
The high-risk community has always been amazing when it comes to rallying around a good cause. The Spring Fling charity streams have always been at the core of our philanthropic efforts, and through it, we've managed to accomplish a lot. But never more than when one of our own needed help, When David Allied Hance was diagnosed with cancer, we leaped into action and donated all of the proceeds from one of our charities directly to help him. That's what you do for family. You sacrifice anything and everything to help them. This past Spring Fling, you guys managed to raise over $100,000. So I went and donated 15 inches of my hair, something very near and dear to me, because of that. But this sacrifice was never about the money for me. It was about much more. About 10 years ago, my oldest brother Anthony was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is a type of blood cancer that starts in your bone marrow. It essentially means you have a bunch of useless white blood cells that can't fight infections. As a result, you are very susceptible to any and all infections. The smallest common cold could prove lethal to you. It spreads rapidly throughout your body because it's in your bloodstream, and the survival rate is a mere 27%. It's not fun. Back at home, though, my dad was still having to hold down the fort, picking up a lot of new responsibilities he wasn't exactly familiar with, but he took it all in stride with unshaken resolve, as any dad would. He would shuttle my brother and I down to the hospital daily to maintain a sense of unity in our family. And aside from all of his sacrifices during the journey, he continues to donate both blood and platelets, two key weapons that Anthony would use in his battle against cancer that would allow him to be here today to tell his story.
Hi, my name is Anthony Keough. I work here at Skillshot Media doing Paladins replays and video playback. So I was 16 years old, getting ready for school one day in the kitchen, and I sneezed, and I was hunched over in pain. It felt like I broke a rib almost. It was the most intense sneeze of my life. Wow. And that's what brought on the little trip to the hospital. To see what was going on, and some scans told us what was going on. I believe it was 3 rounds of chemo. During that time, I did not get to go home. So I was in the hospital for an 8-month stretch from finding the disease to curing it. It was definitely a good feeling to know that my brother was a perfect match, but that's not always a guarantee for everybody, so it was still a little rocky, but it was definitely like a good feeling. So there's certain games, you know, with the creative aspect of them, it really drew me in, and just kind of focus on something else rather than the day-to-day hospital life. I would say the most important thing during this time when your body is fighting is to stay mentally positive. You know, your brain's going through a lot during this time, and it's just important to keep your spirits up and keep your body fighting mentally and physically. Kind of like Allied did. You know, I didn't know him personally. I saw some of his videos, and he kind of mirrored what I did. He'd put his mind on the games and just stay positive to the very end.
My mother would suffer right alongside Anthony for the entire duration of his fight, so long as it took for him to be made whole again. But to be made truly whole once more, he would require another sacrifice, one of blood and flesh, specifically a bone marrow transplant. But not just any bone marrow, one that had to match his perfectly across 8 key attributes.
My name is Dominic Keough. I am brother of Anthony and Nicholas Keough, 2 high-res employees. I am 23 years old now, and I was 13 years old when Anthony was first diagnosed with leukemia. That was a surreal day. I remember going to school that day, just being like on the verge all day. Just wasn't paying attention to anything, was not talking to anyone. So everyone, like all my friends knew something was up. And I remember at lunch, someone finally said, "Are you okay?" And then that was it, just broke down. It was a mess. I wanted so badly for one of us to be the match, let alone when I found out it was me. That was just amazing. I was stoked. I was so excited to do it. I mean, what kind of brother would I be if I... And it sounds kind of like a big deal, like a bone marrow transplant, like, ooh, what is that? It was so simple on my end. It wasn't really scary. It's just, it's a blessing to have the opportunity to help in the way that I did, and everything counts. Everything counts, just being there for whoever's struggling. the little things count. Remember, Anthony, just us being there was enough. Do anything you're comfortable with and try to reach outside your comfort zone as well. And just really talk to whoever's going through whatever issue they're having. Just talk to them, see what they need, and just try to be there for them.
Anthony had come out the other side, alive and whole again. Through great sacrifice from everyone in my family, Dominic, my mother, my father, Anthony had triumphed and defeated cancer. But what did I sacrifice? Nothing really, nothing that could ever match up to what the rest of my family had given. I had to do something. So I spent many moons cultivating my hair to be donated to Wigs for Kids, a charity that would fashion my hair into a wig to hopefully ease the journey of a child struggling with a similar fight. Guys, I want to thank the Hi-Rez community so much for making the Spring Fling and all of our charity work so impactful year after year. I thank you for taking the time to listen to my family's story, and may it bring some of you comfort if you are struggling with a similar fight. Whether you're slaying gods on the battlefields of Smite, pushing payloads in the Realm, or catching Crown Royales in Realm Royale, thank you so much for being a part of the Hi-Rez family.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for the video, Nick, and that story. And
what a sap, am I right, guys?
And thank you very much for everyone and your patience. We are actually ready to start the game now, and I'm sure this is the moment you all have been waiting for. Let's head back to the maps just to remind you of where it will begin. It is Ascension Peak, where they will take their talents to Fnatic and G2 in a best of 3 to decide who moves on in this losers bracket.
This is one of the coolest maps in the game because, you know, we have those extremes. We have those ice mines, the timber mills and stuff that we never see, but most of those are just kind of because of a negative connotation and player perception of.
Definitely.
But this map is cool because of just the size of the capture point and the cover and how much it just affects the game in an extreme way. We saw a capture point take upwards of 3 minutes yesterday, which is by no means the record. I think the record was Renegades and SK on Jaguar Falls, I think, took 6 minutes to capture at one time.
Yeah.
But that, you know, is an extreme outlier, and you see this consistently on this map, and it just changes the way you can frontline on this map because there's so much inbuilt protection. You can make frontliners that aren't necessarily those big point front lines like Gennara work.
And I think one of the interesting things to note is Fnatic's early ban of Furia. Obviously, a lot of priority from G2. They were actually first picking Furia when available, and Fnatic knows that. And they're one of those teams that does their homework. The Willow ban from G2 also notable. Who would have thought we'd just be in the world of Willow bans? This such a high-profile tournament here, and Drogoz going as well. So the Blasters taking a hit from G2's ban.
A lot of respect to Keough, and you got to wonder if there's another layer to this strategy of get this guy uncomfortable, make him have a bad game or at least a bad couple of rounds to start with, force him to bounce back from an uncomfortable position.
Buck taken here for G2 Esports' Khan is banned. This means Fnatic have their prime choice of frontline as well as support, or their DPS if they want to prioritize that. Jera sitting back.
Deal's not been about Makoa this tournament, though.
He certainly hasn't.
He really is not overstating the value of it. So Fnatic will have to think about this. I don't know if it's going to be as automatic as it would have been in times past. The hook hitboxes change. He's lost a little bit of health. He's not the old turtle. He's getting old, you know? He's feeling his age.
Getting a little older. But, I mean, speaking of age, Torvald was played and had some interesting moments. Not sure Fnatic will go for that. Surprise doesn't strike me as the theme for this one. Consistent, steady, performing. That would lead me towards potentially a Barrack pickup later on for Fnatic and maybe a prioritization of their DPS. Maybe, oh, wow, the Barrack very early. The Barrack very, very early, and the Cassie to go along with it.
2 picks definitely with good flexibility for Fnatic as well as strong takeaways from G2. There's so much left in the pool for eyedrop bodies who G2 will be fishing for a pick for. They've already hovered Leon for him, so this is less of a takeaway, more of something that Fnatic, I think, just want. It's got the inherent anti-heal against Buck, but I would say, you know, Leon, has better, more consistent inherent anti-heal, if that's what they were looking for, as well as Enlightenment just gives you insane turnaround and a 1v1 potential.
It's really exciting, too, because prioritizing this Moldamba early gives them a lot of flexibility later on in the draft in regards to their frontline choices. Fnatic now obviously have to take either their second front line if they want it, otherwise give that prime choice to G2, whereas Fnatic still don't have their healer, but most likely will be rolling into a Genos.
This is really interesting. G2 definitely leaving the Genos open despite it synergizing very well with Buck, with Leon, and I think more importantly, everything that Fnatic have picked up so far. Keough's going to go late.
Like a Bugsy Barrack here.
So that's going to be, the Bugsy Barrack coming through. And you got to just wonder what Fish is going to be playing at this point. Perhaps a Xin?
You would expect a Xin here, and I think G2 would do well to potentially take that, because that is a very dangerous pairing with the Genos as well, and the Cassie. There's a lot of peel. So far, Fnatic take, I think, a leap ahead of G2 in this draft. What can G2 do to respond here with their last two?
I think, is a good pick for Keough. Keough still needs a pick. If they want to go for Xin, that's likely going to go to Bodies or Evil Eye, because that's who normally will play at Keough. He's been asked to flex around a lot. And it looks like he will be again, unless this is a Dosups pick. I mean, Dosups will go to the Bomb King. He'll go to the Shah. He'll go to the Cassie when it's time. And Fernando being locked in last, that screams Keough Cutie.
It absolutely does. With Evil Eye being such a good Bomb King as well.
You have to imagine it's him on the... God, it's tough.
You wonder here because there could be Dosups transitioning onto the Leon. If I was going to make a random call... Bodies didn't have the best Leon games yesterday, although, you know, with this Pip coming in at the end, Fnatic definitely mixing up their choices as well, and I really like how they've gone here.
Pip has just been a completely untapped, I feel, this tournament by everyone except for G2. I think Envy's played it once, maybe twice, but all of Europe has completely abandoned the Volpine, and it was big for them in the Masters in the spring. Creatives looked great on it. Fnatic had moments. Bittner looking, you know, at times really unstoppable on it as well, and I think with the Genos, there's incredible synergy there.
I mean, this is, you could easily run a Catalyst Pip, and I expect to see it with the Luminary because you've got pretty good spot healing and you've got the consistency from the Astral Mark.
This is a lot of flexibility for both teams. They are a little bit out of their comfort zones, I think.
It does feel like they tried to make sure they got something good, and both teams have a deadly lineup. Which team will come out on top in this very important Game 1 in a best-of-3 in the losers bracket? Let's send it to our casters to find out.
G2 and Fnatic, the top seeds from the regions in the PPL split, now battling in the bottom bracket.
And the last time these two met, G2 was able to take the overall set, being able to kind of control everything that went through. And I like the way Fnatic's kind of changed their strategy, but it doesn't really feel like them either. So I'm curious as to how this draft is going to work for them.
And I love the point that Dusk was talking about, the fact that Pip just hasn't really been as apparent so far in this LAN, despite quite a few of the players having tremendous experience with them in the past, including Bittner, who's put in some work with this Pip. But everybody's rotating towards Bugsy, first on the sideline of the objective, throwing some shots to the far Keough Cutie, but right now rolling around.
Being able to get at least a little bit of an advantage overall in terms of the damage, but you can see Fnatic not having too much. That beautiful Hulk is going to be able to set up first blood, though, and that gives them a distinct advantage. Not having a Buck online makes G2's draft kind of fall down in terms of damage.
It looked like he was trying to slink away, and they said, not today, Dose Up. So that leaves a bit of an opening as I Drop Bodies fell as well. So Fnatic starting to dominate this capture area. You notice that Theo on this Makoa isn't even as worried about preoccupying the actual objective. He wants to try and catch people on the outside, including Dose-Ups once more.
And you can see just going through the draft how important it was for a lot of these damage champions to be coming through Buck, being very highly prioritized by G2. Makoa went so far into the draft that honestly I was kind of wondering whether or not Fnatic were going to pull it out, but that hook just gives so much, and when Theo is playing it and he's on point, it makes a huge difference in terms of their play.
Some long shots of those potions from Pip, and Keough Cutie got chunked down to about 15% HP, but it's G2 at 69%. Fnatic about to match that as Fasheko gets a double kill, looking for another. Gripped up onto Keough, but he gets a kill onto Fasheko before it can be thrown back. Bittner's here for a little bit of cleanup, and Fnatic have the 2-for-1 so far.
A lot of back and forth. Polymorph already gonna come down with the Evil Mojo, and that's gonna be an easy kill to pick up. Vex is just left on his own. No one's gonna be able to really contest. They don't have enough time, so G2 lose this first point.
Everybody that's up on G2 too far away to step in. Fnatic captured, now time to push. But you're noticing, you had mentioned it before, how with this Buck, a lot are much more amped to just target him early, use whatever resources, whether it's an ultimate or not, just to get him off the table as a threat. Fnatic picking him up again.
And it's just good homework when it comes down to it. Again, Job Bodies hasn't necessarily been having the best Leon games the last few days, so being able to recognize that that's not going to be as big of a threat. Evil Eye on Bomb King, when given the right scenarios, can do a ton, but they're shutting him down. They're making it so there is absolutely no way for him to do anything. Bugsy going to end up falling off of the map there, but they got Vex to throw out that Dread Serpent for pretty much nothing.
It was very much a defensive Dread Serpent in the side kind of corridor way where you see G2 had a few of the members that were getting targeted. Almost this shielding type aspect where you think that's not going to be a game-changing ultimate right there, but you felt compelled to have to use this. And now Fnatic, they know you don't have it up. They pushed about 50% of the way with 1.5 minutes to go. And Theo finds a few G2 players in the side. Evil Eye picks it up onto Keough.
And right now, just getting a ton of damage, looking for potentially 2 kills there. Bittner got Evil Eye, but Theo cleans up Drop Bodies. And again, it's just the pressure they're putting it down. Even if you're missing hooks right there, that's not a big deal. You just got 2 kills. Cuss is pretty much isolated. Dosups, while he's been having okay shots and that recovery is going to keep him alive, nothing comes out of it.
Yeah, at least there was actually coming on the other side. Because you saw Theo, he had to redirect his attention pretty quickly because the gourd was too much and the dodge of the hook for Vex, who does go down to Jera right now. And even got stunned in the back of the head on his way to help the rest of the team. But they were strong enough to hold on their own. See Bittner taking this flank positioning so that G2, they're focused on the payload that is right knocking on that front door, and it's Dosup's job to keep this Pip at bay, but he takes too much damage and has to back out.
With the way things are going right now, it feels like there's a lot of pressure, and there should be on Dosups to perform here, but he hasn't been able to do it because Fnatic are just shutting him down. Anytime he gets seen, anything that he tries to accomplish, everyone on Fnatic turns to get rid of him. And once he's gone, the rest of them lose that ability to push forward. Drop Bodies, Evil Eye can't really do too much because they're being held back the entire time. There's essentially this giant gap, and Fnatic just fills it with all of the damage they want.
And Keough was very accurate with this Cassie play. We saw that the Willow and the Drokos were both banned away by G2, which this man is the one to always take the reins on those. But he still has a lot of other things in his arsenal, including this crossbow.
And as Cassie the other day, I mean, there have been times he's 10-1 or even better in terms of his KD. So being able to come into this, he's looking really good as of right now. 8-3-4, not going to be rocking the 10-1, but still a lot of damage coming out of him, just barely being beat by the Pip, but having the tumble, having the kinetics, kind of switching his loadout so that tumble's level 5, having that 70%. You can't lock down this Cassie. She's causing anti-heal. You don't want to fight her.
While Dosups is 2-6-0. It's hard to tell even how good his play on this Buck is right now because he keeps getting shut down so often, it's not even giving him an opportunity to get it online. But here's an early start. No kills just yet. 15 to 21% on the objective. Keough continues to preoccupy those outside barriers.
Couple of good angles. Dosups
couple headshots.
Trying to figure out where he wants to go. Buck Wild's available, which I think is going to make a bigger difference if he can jump in, but he has to stay alive, and I think that's going to be the hard part. Full clip right now, so if he pops that Buck Wild, it'll be beneficial, but still not really a good place for him to go in and fight.
He knows that there's already a Fnatic member on the outside high ground just so that he keeps him at all angles. Bugsy notices that there's a Cuss on the opposite side trying to steal his job, basically, but the ultimates begin to come out. Ancient Rage followed up. There's a Dread Serpent starting to swing away at Evil Eye, who's in that King Bomb, but luckily able to protect himself against that. Gets the hook onto Evil Eye, brings him back. Bittner with the last hit, but G2 lose too, and Fnatic, they are cleaning up the map right now.
This is just one of those moments Vex and Cuss together can try to live, although they are getting chased down. Theo does not want to let this slip away. They're going to be healing, but they are locked in a room with pincers coming in. The spikes collapse, and they both die.
Oh, man, that was a bloody fight. Fnatic, they end up using or losing Bittner right now, but it doesn't matter. He's not the one they needed sitting on the objective anyway. They still had Bugsy there. Captures it. It's 3-0 so far. Another nice clip onto Dosups. And G2... you look and you're wondering who's standing out right now. who's carrying it for their team, and I don't see anybody making those all-star plays.
Well, it's just in that awkward moment where it kind of goes traded ult for ult, where Fnatic just recognize what G2 are trying to accomplish. They read it, and they just shrug it off. There's a point Kingbomb goes into the Makoa in his Ancient Rage, has that CC immunity, has that extra health, so Thiel just shrugs it off and keeps swinging. He doesn't care about that damage. The same thing kind of goes, you see the alternate side where Evil Mojo came down, and you have that Immortal coming through, kind of keeping everyone alive, but it didn't accomplish anything. Nothing G2 was able to do to really drive that home, while Fnatic just slowly but surely picked them all up.
50% of the way pushed, a little bit of regression, but Fnatic, they need this time to rebuild some of their ultimate charges anyway. Just get a couple picks right now. It's the 1-for-1, well, 2-for-2, basically. As a couple of the frontliners go down, but the sustain is still here for both sides. And then those long shots from the damage dealers.
So Fnatic's just sitting over here having no issues at all finding these shots. And again, all you really need is a little bit of poke in areas like this, and it's going to work out well. 11-3-7 now has done nothing but get kills or help out with eliminations overall for his team, and has topped the damage so far. Just standing on the side, and no one's being able to pay attention to him. They have to look elsewhere, and it's not working out well for G2.
And Joseph's that whole time, he had to plant himself in front of Fnatic, who are just going to focus him down in the end anyways. Managed to do so, get the 2 kills. There's no Nando around to put himself in front of that payload, so it's continuing to move at a really steady pace. Pacheco's taking the positioning that Bittner did last time they were at the tail end of this push, and most of G2 Esports are right there outside of the spawn doors, finally sending Keough forward, but he takes about half his damage. Dread Serpent on the side, attempt to tumble on through, but Doseps and Bodies pick up some kills.
Unfortunately, though, that's going to be answered 2-for-2 so far, and you're losing Doseps' Evil Eye in all of that process. Cuss not going to have the best health bar as of right now, getting shut down. The shield goes up, they get rid of Bugsy. That does force a little bit of a retreat for Fnatic, but I mean, 20 seconds left, Thiel's respawned and back with them. They can regroup and jump on for overtime.
I think right now, luckily, they were able to get the kill to force the rest of Fnatic back. That allowed G2 to open up the area a bit more. They were all so stuck on that balcony outside of the spawn. That still makes you pretty vulnerable. But here's another ultimate as Thiel pops the Ancient Rage, plants himself in the middle of G2. Keough gets swung away out a bit, but luckily gets some heals. And Jared's in the back with that 26 streak Dome Shield directly in the path of this objective as Pacheco starts to shoot his shots away. I Drop Bodies gets a nice pick though.
Through Time and Space has yet to be fired so far, and that could make a big difference. It's just Jera and Thiel standing on the point. They have reinforcements coming in. Bittner's going to be around the corner waiting for that damage. The shield is up. They're getting some kills. They're pushing them back, but G2 are still holding. They have respawn proximity, so they're controlling this fight.
And that overtime is coming up. Another Dread Serpent within that time, and G2 Esports managed to get that defense.
That was... I want to give all credit to the fact that they're respawning there, right? It's like you just walk out of the base and you're going to be there in the fight versus Fnatic being there as long as they were. I still feel, personally, like Jera has been holding on to this through Time and Space a little bit too much. There's kind of that ult economy that we always talk about where it's just like, when do you want to use it? Do you want to use it immediately? Do you want to wait for a little bit? Fnatic is usually one of the ones that wait, but that feels like it's been sat on just for a little bit too long. He still has it. I don't think he's fired one, or if he has, he's only fired the one. And as of right now, even at 2-0-28, you still need that presence.
30 streak for Jera right now. 2-0-28 for the healer. Now, tricky thing is, Fnatic used a lot of ults because they thought they were going to be able to push it through in the last minute, but they took all of G2 Esports ultimates in the process. There's the third Time and Space, clips away, gets the double kill, Thiel finishing off Keough, and G2 Esports are left with nothing but Evil Eye on this Bomb King, and he's just deciding to roll away in the meantime.
He's going back towards Fnatic's spawn, but honestly, they have no reason to really worry about it just yet. Someone, as long as they remember he's back there, they're going to be relatively safe. They can watch where G2 are coming in. They're at 75% already on the point. They've got distinct control, and unless Evil Eye is going to make some insane play from behind him, I don't understand what he's trying to accomplish.
Does pick it up onto Pacheco. There is a hook from Thiel, but has to put the shield up as he took too much damage. Piv starting to get chunked down as well. 2 fall for Fnatic. G2 Esports bring themselves back into this fight, sending Keough onto the objective as Evil Eye adds the damage of his own. Doseps with the double kill, and I Drop Bodies picks one up too.
King Bomb charged up, 99% though for Fnatic, so you have to stand on this point. You have to dismount, and you have to hold them back. A beautiful hook once again kills off Dosups, but Evil Eye's going to go ahead and press the gas pedal, try to get in there and stop Fnatic from coming in and reclaiming this point.
A little bit of a hitch on the way, and Pops, eye drop bodies on the other side, is getting a double kill. Theo pops the ultimate once again. Bittner gets a double for himself in pursuit of Keough, who stood alive for a little too long for their comfort, but still, now all that's alive is Dosups, not anymore, and that 99% is going to turn to 100 as Fnatic take game number 1.
And that's one of those moments, 99%. Once you get there, you can kind of stop sweating about the point a little bit. Like, you still need to put that pressure, you still need to fight back, but you could tell Fnatic were able to approach that a lot calmer, because even with the comeback mechanic, even with what G2 had in their favor, they just haven't been winning these fights enough to make that big of a difference, and you can kind of see it. They don't, I feel like, know what exactly went wrong, other than the fact that Dosups, I feel like, never truly got to get any experience on that buck. He never got to go in, he never got to fight. The couple of times he did get some damage down, G2 got good fights, but it just didn't happen at all.
I feel it was a very scary moment in that time when G2 was coming back on that capture and the percentage was going, because if they did get that and brought it to a 2-3, you can see a world where they start to travel on through and then go for the run back, but Fnatic was able to close it out. So let's hear what the desk has to say.
Thank you. It was an incredibly rough game for, I think, G2 Esports fans. Let's start there. I think G2 Esports make a difficult call, and they put Dosups on a buck that doesn't perform and doesn't feel like a pick he would be on. And that's where I first say, what's going on?
Yeah, you got not a great performance from him. He's getting picked early and often. I think he was the first 2 deaths for G2 Esports, or at least coming right back. Got nothing, and you give up the hardest peel in the game twice for Fnatic. They pick up this Makoa finally, and Doze are admittedly struggling a little bit with it, just getting around it, playing around it.
Right.
When you have a couple of great Buck players, like Evil Eye before, it feels weird. We talked about that early, though, why it felt both teams getting out of their comfort zones a little bit in this draft.
It also was an interesting point to note that they had the option to pick up a Genos. They went triple DPS, and they got the Maldamba, which we were mentioning would have paired really nicely with an Inara. Terminus may be out of favor, but actually really good on this map particularly. But they don't really have a lot of synergy between their front line and, of course, the rest of their damage picks by opting into Damba over Genos there.
It's a lot of Ys in the draft for sure there. Fnatic making little stretches as well, but there's kind of panning out. Bugsy got a lot of stall time on that Makoa and really allowed Theo freedom of the map. He was brawling a lot in the backline, providing Peel with the hooks, and that was a lot of great frontline synergy.
And we saw, a couple of mistakes from Evil Eye towards the end. Maybe gets caught on the ledge unintentionally. But,
100%.
Makoa and Theo, that was a problem. You have the opportunity to take Makoa, and you don't take a tank. You end up taking your tank last, and it comes back to bite you. It's really the tanks that controlled the space. It's Barrick who held down that corner statue, and it was Makoa who was the best, most influential in the brawl situation, Nick. So I think that Fnatic played well. I love the pit pick at the end, by the way, from Bittner. I thought that was a game changer. But it did feel like G2 were really out of pocket in that one.
Well, let's talk about the game. Like you mentioned, that Evil Eye King Bomb there. There was so much weirdness when we were watching that second to last round, the overtime near G2's capture point that would have ended the game, but you saw how hard they went for that defense. Only 20 seconds on the clock. Fnatic have every resource available to them going into the next round, but they just go for it. They just lay it all on the line. And I thought that was weird. I thought that lets G2 back into the game. That opens the door in the next round. You give them comeback mechanic. You throw away your ultimate advantage.
Yeah.
And it was only as a result of that Evil Eye King Bomb that I feel like things went sour. Again, Dosups gets picked out on the zone. Not a good start. You could see the second Evil Eye clips that little wall, whatever the hell it was, he starts to kind of panic wiggle. Everyone in Fnatic's long gone. No one's getting caught by that King Bomb, and it's nothing left for G2.
That's what I'm saying. It was such an odd game. And I think,
it was.
It's just like,
the whole way
and
through.
The Zen is open. And Evil Eyes had such success with a guillotine Zen. And that Zen would have been a really nice counter to the double front line that Fnatic were running instead of the Bomb King. Then he can, be able to transition on that. You still have Doe on this buck, but I just felt like it was a very odd almost, they really prioritize this buck. So we're going to take that. We're going to grab this, mix them up. It felt like G2, what they need to do now if they want to make this a set, otherwise Fnatic will breeze through, is really focus on getting something that they all feel comfortable on.
I got to say, out of the flex of Evil Eye, Bodies, and Doe is the last person I would have expected to see on the buck there. I would have even expected to see him on Leon before buck.
And
yeah. Ideally, I thought he was going to go on to Bomb King. That's an OG. That's like putting him on that Cassie. It's something he's played a lot of before
right.
Evil Eye was even on this roster.
That sounds like actually the most probable success story of those three. So interesting. Very, very interesting. And we obviously have the maps coming up for you in Game 2 because it's going to be decided here if Fnatic can take a win. That was Fnatic's map pick, and now this is G2's map pick. And, oh, boy, Ice Mines.
It's got to get spicy.
That tells you something.
I mean, they picked up Timbermill. We saw them go to Fish Market. We know G2 has been working on these edge case map picks just to try and make Fnatic a little bit uncomfortable. But Fnatic, they do get brought here often enough, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Coming through in the Ice Mines, they're talking about how just the topography and the layout of the point for Ascension Peak will draw out the game. It's kind of the same thing here, but it's just due to the length of the map.
I think G2 are in a good position to do something here, but so are Fnatic, and that's why I'm worried about this map pick. Obviously, Fnatic haven't seen Ice Mines a lot this tournament, maybe not at all, but Fnatic saw G2 lose on Ascension Peak, so they knew, hey, this is a good map where we know what we're doing, and it seems like G2 are having a rough time. G2 take a gamble at what I think is a little bit of an older strategy, like let's bring them to Ice Mines, let's bring them to Timber Mill. Fnatic haven't proven that they stink on Ice Mines, that they don't know what they're doing. I think this is actually something that Fnatic, especially if they get a Khan or they get a Talus, something that's like a weird mechanic they can pull off here, I would be afraid if I was a G2 fan.
Willow and Barrack bans.
I think they need a Khan
in Fnatic versus G2 in the losers bracket on Ice Mines. I say that to you 3 weeks ago. What types of names do you call me?
Will we ever say this again? Will this ever happen again? You know how they say, every sentence you've made right now is uniquely new. You've never said this exact sentence you're saying before.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I feel like I've said that.
You've definitely said that pretty wild, bro. That was the worst thing to say.
How's your argument now?
That is the worst example that could have come up at that point. All right, never mind. That has been proven false.
But that's the same two bans coming out here for Fnatic when it's all said and done. The Willow, the Drogos, that's what they took off the board last time around. G2 switching it up. Fnatic, our first pick this time. G2 will be second pick. I feel like, though, if you're G2 and you want to go to a weird map with your back against the wall, it seems like they've had this Timber Mill cooking, and why not go there?
Dude.
That's the more eccentric map, in my opinion. We've only seen it two or three times this year.
I mean, they almost got beat by SSG, so they lost multiple points on that. So maybe that's where it is. Dude, I think they're going to give up the Khan here. And I think Fnatic are going to take it. This is what worried me, and I think this is what, if you're Fnatic, you know how to play around this Khan so well. You know how to isolate, and you even know how to play around it if G2 has it. And so now that he's going to be a factor in this game, the instant kill on Overpower in this map is very, very deadly.
And I'm just wondering, due to the good performance of Theo and Makoa last game, are they considering that perhaps for the first pick? You know, when G2 are leaving so much open that they have some type of plan. Furia is available and open as well. Fnatic, they're going to scoop the Khan first.
And G2 now most likely will at least head towards the Makoa.
Do they dare?
Barrack is not around. But, I mean, if you give up Khan and Makoa on this map, I think you're going to be kicking yourselves in the shin if you lose this game.
Well, you remarked that they do like them some Furia. She is open and available.
Furia Koa could be interesting.
You take Furia, you sort of force Fnatic into a Genos, which is a lot of bonus damage to give up. Khan having the firing line talent available, and Genos Luminary so consistent. Fnatic are going to be swinging. I could see Fishy on a little Bomb King being escorted around like a prince, serving up whatever the hell he feels like eating.
Like a callous prince, uncaring about whatever his subjects are feeling at the moment. And
gotta say, in terms of flexibility, though, Fish Echo's Cassie is not standard, though very impressive in game number 1. I think he was sitting like 12-2 or 12-3, somewhere in there.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of damage to go around. Cassie definitely want to take that away.
It's the soccer, the football, warming him up in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, when Bugsy can play it, when Tenor can play it, when Fish can now prove that he can play it, that's almost a guarantee. We got to get this away from them. for G2 Fnatic. It will forego Keough in this game, it would appear.
And you talk about just those 3 ultimates right there. Those 3 characters alive against 5, using their ultimates correctly, can win the game.
3v5. Potentially Keough will go the way of G2. The King taken as well.
That's a big pick.
I feel like it is indeed. Fishy needs something, Evan. Willow's gone. Drogos is gone. Bomb King is gone. Cassie is gone. He has played the Pip before. Tenor just played the Pip, so I feel like Fnatic were planning to put Tenor on here. That Bomb King pickup might force Fnatic to pivot slightly in this draft. Could throw them off balance.
I think you're going to see a Zen come through from Fnatic. I think that's the only real option they have from a damage perspective that's performed
is
here.
Zen Genos here enough damage? That's the question for me. Or is this a Mega Potion Pip, perhaps?
I think you can actually run Zen Genos and run Catalyst Pip like they did last time and just have the healing from Khan, you have the healing from Pip, and you have the healing from, Genos, and Zen takes care of himself. It's really Inara that you need to focus on, but she gets a mark all the time, so does Khan, and then you flex out onto Zen or Pip, whoever needs it. I think this is a very, very strong lineup from Fnatic, and with the Fernando at the end, although G2 I think are looking good, especially if they can have a nice inflame, which will be easy to hit a lot of people.
Yeah. That is a beast mode lineup from G2, man.
I think both are.
Oh man, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit more solid for me for G2.
Really?
I think there's you just look across the board. There's the power picks. Fnatic are close to not having enough damage. I think here. I think the Luminary marks have to be good. They have to be on the right targets when the engage is happening.
I personally am really excited to see how Fnatic play with this con and play around that overpower, especially how G2 respond to it. We know they've had success, but let's see if they could finish off this set and move themselves ahead in the tournament today and knock G2 Esports out of the running.
Quite the draft that has come on through. Which one are you liking more?
I like the way G2s feel for those players. It's just one of those things, Fnatic, again, it feels like they have a lot of threads of success in this, but I think that their execute threshold is a little different than what they normally try to pull off. It's a little bit different than what they have been playing and what they found success on in the past. And of course, this is one of those things that being able to get Keough and Bomb King and Furia and Fernando and Cassie, like that's just a stacked lineup from G2.
Right. It is just a very aggressive lineup that when you line up some of these ultimates correctly as well, they can basically stack up for something phenomenal. But on Fnatic, Bittner, he's back on the Pip. That worked out really well. Khan, in any situation when he hasn't been banned, has been picked up, and it makes a lot of sense for him to go first. Right in the ski lodge is where Fnatic decides to stay. In the meantime, Dosep circles around for a little bit of poke. Nothing too crazy just yet, though.
I'm a big fan of Dosep's going to the Keough. Instead of seeing the buck, it didn't go too well for him last time. This time it's going to be much harder to kill him. That's going to be first blood. Thiel, of all people on this Inara, going to be the first one to fall.
And Cuss is the one with the credit on it. He's staying pretty close to the objective here. Vex making his nice rotations as well because Dosep's getting chunked, but you can burst it back up. Evil Eye into the window for a time, but pops on down before he finds Faith, and Cuss gets another kill onto Visheko as it's 87% and climbing for G2.
Nice little bunny hop, and again, all you need is that little bit of pressure. You kill off Thiel, you keep the rest of them corralled away. Fnatic weren't even able to touch and get a percentage on that point. Now coming into the 2-minute mark, that is G2 running the show. And it feels like Ice Mines might be the place that they are going to be able to at least pull themselves ahead and maybe tie this set up.
A 0 to 100 between Fnatic and G2 in the bottom bracket. And right now, immediately outside of that turn is where you see the defense attempt to hold, but G2 Esports have already managed to move forward quite effectively. A real just toe-to-toe brawl right now. You notice that no one is opting for the space option. But there's one way to close up the space.
And you get Bugsy, you burn his shield down. He's going to have that back relatively quickly. It's not going to be the end of the world for him, but again, you're just kind of showcasing to Thiel and Bugsy that they aren't safe where they are. The healing so far from Furia has been phenomenal in terms of keeping Doseps up. His dome shield right there is going to be able to keep everybody else safe. Evil Eye, it's a little bit too aggressive, maybe a little bit too far away from the rest of his team, and now they're starting to drop.
Clean up from Thiel right now. Finally starting to move on forward. Because for a while it was looking at that single step back as G2 moves forward. But instead, Thiel right now into this line quite aggressively. Doseps, he's about to go down. He does indeed, as both frontliners fall for G2.
And that's going to be a nice stagger, just to be able to keep G2 kind of away for a little bit longer. It buys you time as Fnatic. And again, this is one of those maps, the push is notoriously difficult. It was outrageous, I think, the other day that we saw a 4-0. It's not something that you typically get, especially from teams that are going to be as closely matched as these two. Last time, G2, I think, was the one that was able to come out on top, but this is one of those instances where Fnatic, especially after the way they played last game, are confident in their abilities, and I know with a composition like this, they should be able to defend.
Even so, the push was going really great at first. It was once Evil Eye had extended too much and then got picked, and then another pick was to follow, that it translated to Fnatic for the time being. I drop bodies, picking off Bittner. Wow, a nice hook to allow bodies to get the last hot onto Fnatic. And that is, wow, so many for bodies right now. Taking a hit and 4 last hits from him. That was insane.
So, a couple days ago, there was, I want to say, discussion about, whether or not do you ban Makoa, do you really need to, can you let him through? And Cassie, I feel like, falls into the same kind of area where it's just like every now and then you get a player that is going to be so phenomenal on this Cassie that you just don't know how to deal with it. That's going to be a huge chunk of push done as they go into overtime here for G2.
And here's the Inflamed as well. So these are going to be hitting a bit harder, a bit faster. Bugsy eliminated. A slide down as Fnatic attempted to get a hit onto somebody, but he's the one getting hit and blasted right now. Gets the 1-for-1 trade in the meantime, but it's a 2-for-1 totally as Fnatic are losing their grip on this defense. I drop bodies right into the face of Theo, and Keough's the one to finish him off, but G2, they lose 3, and Fnatic get that defense.
It's just being able to get rid of the Furia as well as those two front lines. Once you set that up, you kind of get yourself in the position of the tankiness is gone. The things that's keeping them sustained is gone. As long as we have this, no matter how much damage they dump into us, we can kill off a Cassie. We can kill off a Bomb King. And that's kind of where you have to keep your mind at. And that's just one of those moments where if G2 hit the gas pedal a little harder, maybe they get that conversion, but they use a lot more ults. At this point, they've used Inflame, which admittedly is not going to be, I think, the best thing to not have, but it's not really the worst thing to not have either.
3 of those ultimates down right now for G2. I think they saw the moment. I like that they were trying to take initiative there and then push it through. And for a moment, it looked as if they did have it. Fnatic were able to pick things up a little bit more in their favor. But it does mean that, yep, now you're going into the second round. No Inflamed, no Immortal, no Scout. But Fnatic, they have a lot more with all the ultimates for them. And here, right off the bat, a spite into Keough. Theo getting the double kill. Bugsy cleaning on his dose-ups. So G2 Esports already lose 3. Now Evil Eye, he's all alone. Zoned off by Fnatic, a team wipe. And Fnatic are feeling good.
And they keep Evil Eye just enough behind. It's one of those, it's not this huge stagger, but it's just enough that you're still going to have to buy a few seconds as G2 to make sure everyone's grouped up. Fnatic's actually in the backline looking to dismount a few. Going to be able to hit right there and stop Cassie. Drop bodies going to be locked around, but they're looking for the fight. Ancient Rage just popped. There's a wall in his face.
Yeah, and Ancient Rage not even near the objective though, so that 99% becomes 100. You used that ultimate, you don't get a kill, you die instead, and now Fnatic, they got 3 kills, they're moving on forward, and the same aggression that you tried to have at the beginning of your push last time, that did last for a little bit. Fnatic might be able to bring it even farther, because you're already backing up.
One of the things we've been talking about for Khan is, him being banned, partially we will always mention the battle shout, the CC immunity, what he can provide for his team. But just the biggest thing is at the beginning of the fight, being able to use that ult to just get 1 free kill on a front line. Makoa was dead immediately off of that one. Almost got the shell spin back, but Dosups was just not in that fight. It was a 4v5 taken off the bat, and that gives Fnatic that advantage that you need. That's why we see him banned so much, is because of that.
I Drop Bodies gets a double kill though. Might be able to slow things down a bit because Fnatic has made some great progress so far. And you saw even the way using Warder's Field and things like that when Keough is in pursuit of your backline. And then Theo, as the Sonarge says, no, sorry, I'm going to put myself between you and the target.
Nice long-range bombs looking to try and hold. This has gotten, I want to say, slightly more difficult to hold back overall since they've opened up this area of the map. And right now, actually, with an Evil Mojo, that's going to make it a lot easier to push through as they get a couple kills, but Evil Eye responding in force.
Not even using the King Bomb for it either. Just gets the double kill right off the bat. Fnatic, Keough falling pretty low and out of it. So G2, nice succession of kills, and that's what's going to put this payload on the regression. Currently, they have Inflamed. They have the King Bomb and Immortal. On the opposite side, though, everything pretty much except for that Evil Mojo.
I mean, everything that's going to be coming back up is going to be important for Fnatic. Again, whether or not you feel confident in your overtime push, being able to burn those ults, but just going into the next round, Bugsy, I expect, is going to keep his ult no matter what. Just being able to have that, again, kill one for free card at the very beginning of the fight, start this up. It's such a long path back to the point that that kill means so much.
It's about to be the Ancient Rage up again as well. You're in those 30 seconds where hopefully you can hold on to more of these as opposed to using them just for the defense. Vex, Dosups gets the 1-for-1 trade right now before he falls. The eye drop bodies is being so consistent with the way that he's getting these kills.
Theo kind of isolated, going to be able to wall himself off, but here comes the aggression. Evil Eye over the wall, Cuss around the wall, and they're still going to be able to find the kill. Looking to zone out Fnatic, take this up 2-2, and this is a lot more of what you would expect whenever you are watching Ice Mines. This defense, again, notoriously difficult to be able to actually break down and get a push.
And when they're working as a unit, you saw right there with Theo, who was able to just fine block off against one when that was the scenario. In that case, got collapsed and eliminated. And then I drop bodies on this Cassie. Just has a hand in everything right now. Where we talk about that combination of Makoa and Bomb King with them sticking together, but you'll notice that it's Makoa and Cassie that have been walking in tandem for a lot of these fights.
I like it if you put it off, you can kind of pair them off. Put Furia in the point where she can see everybody. Then you get Bomb King Fernando and then Cassie Makoa, and just let them have their pairs, do whatever they need to do. Unfortunately, they're in this position where I just don't see whether or not it's Cuss or Dosups who's going to be the one eliminated. Bugsy immediately goes to the side. He knows what he's looking for, and putting drop bodies on the aggression, that's what they needed to do.
Seismic crash through time and space, gets the Inflamed on top of the King Bomb, lots it onto Bittner, finds a double kill, rotates back towards the objective, and that's 4 down. Theo last man standing, and as great as Nara can be at surviving, G2 is totally okay with allowing him to do so in the meantime while they gain some capture.
I mean, just being able to showcase how do you deal with the ults coming out from Fnatic, you just kill them so that Fnatic can't do anything with those ults. All of them get popped except for the Evil Mojo, and all of them are going to be able to take some time until they get back up, and that's going to give G2 a very good hold on this point, especially with Bittner falling right there. It's going to be a lot more difficult.
And he used that Evil Mojo and got nothing for it. Ancient Rage finally popped, attempting to do what he needs to get the security of the point, which they do. Gets it to that 100%. Now time to move forward. A great wall to block off because this is a tremendous choke point on the defensive side that G2 was able to make it past the first time around.
Bugsy's life or death at the beginning of the round, I think, is what really solidifies Fnatic's ability to take the team fight. If they can turn it into a 4v5, that makes it so much easier for them. Even there, being able to use all their ults, you could just see that G2 were prepared for it. They were able to kind of absorb it and turn it right back on its head. So Fnatic are going to have to look at how they position for the beginning of the next round. Assuming there is a next round, G2 getting wiped right now, but 1 minute and 50 seconds left on the clock to potentially push this in.
Good pickups. Some of these fights are so clustered. You'll notice in the mining tunnels right then when they took down Theo, it was just everybody right into the face. You don't even care about range. You just want it to hit. Keough using the ultimate to finish off Keough though, so no spite for a while.
Good shots, good aggression. I like the way Fnatic has positioned themselves in this, just because they push up really far. This map is big enough that even if they get wiped right here, they're going to be able to respawn, get to the payload before G2 even sees it. So they have this advantage going into it, and being able to just keep everyone dismounted and push back. No one on the side of G2 right now is actually in a good position to really fight.
About a minute to go. A long way to go, and that fight that they need doesn't seem to be as apparent. A couple of the ultimates are about to come back online, so they have more of that utility. Fnatic have a lot for themselves, though, and have been doing just fine on this defense. You see the way G2 are just corralled together, grouped in a way that, sure, it's great to stay by your buddies, but they're just getting picked off. Theo, Bittner, Jira, all getting last hits. Evil Eye with the double kill to throw it back, though.
Being able to find everything you want. Cuss, maybe a little bit too aggressive, will end up dying as things go forward. That payload has regressed almost all the way back to its spawn point. It's back in that first arch, kind of opposite that you would see where Bugsy is standing, and still moving backwards. 30 seconds left. This is a long push when you have the full 2.5 minutes. It's going to be incredible if G2 are able to do anything with this overtime.
Yeah, it's just going to be a really long overtime if they try to push anything forward with it. Another one of those very clustered fights in this archway. A hook onto Theo, pulls in for the kill from Evil Eye. as he rotates into the side mining area, gets caught out by Bittner. Gets some thrashing back though. Vex and Keough still alive, still applying that pressure, and Doseps, he is rotating with this payload.
It's a good fight. Doseps being at the forefront of the fight. Everyone else on G2 going to be following up behind those. And depending on how they get this, so they can set up a couple of good kills, will get this even further. Then you get past that second arch. If you can get into the base of Fnatic, you put the scare into them, you have all 5 ults, you have potential to still close this out.
But it's a super risk if you do try to go for it. Right now, it's looking great as far as the first step of getting into that spawn area. You've got the team wipe, you've got the movement, but are you going to use everything you've got to try and close it out now?
Is it worth the commit? I still see a couple ults more than likely getting used right here. Depends on how some of these fights go, but it's in there. It's moving forward. No one's touching down just yet. Now Fnatic forced to jump down. Overtime is going to fall down. You cannot leave this payload.
But Doseps has fallen, and it's a long way back if you do try to get into this fight once more. G2, too many of them killed. And it's a long path from your spawning area to theirs in those final moments of a push overtime fight.
Bugsy's face cam there, I want to say, kind of showcase that where Fnatic's like, you're sure we're not going to lose the defense here. We're going to be able to hold it. But at the same time, your back's against the wall. It's a little frightening. That's not your elimination. This last point has potential to be G2's last point for the tournament.
Oh, man. They're going to be throwing their all into this. And it's tough because they're playing so well this game where if you fight it all the way to 3-3 and then you still lose on that last point and end up going home, it's that feeling of, yeah, it was a 2-0, but it doesn't feel that way. Look at all those items online. It's been a long game. We're hitting that 15-minute mark, but it'll be quite the brawl with everything except for Evil Mojo is up. And who's going to be the first to initiate with their ultimates? There's a scout expected. There's a Spite over on the side. But having to rotate, and the King Bomb straight down the middle. No kills just yet. Everyone's still managing to survive. Every ultimate from G2 Esports used, despite not getting any kills yet. Seismic Crash downtown, bodies falls, but Keough throws it back onto Bittner as he's in pursuit of the backline of Fnatic.
And you can see where they're forcing this fight. They are in Fnatic's territory as of right now, but they all went Master Riding. Even dying here is not the worst case scenario for G2. No one's touched the point yet.
Yeah, there is 0% on this objective because they have just been fighting for their lives elsewhere. Every single ultimate used. Fshekough's on that 100% because it's come back already since he started it off with a round and got the double kill. Fnatic first to touch onto this point with 15%, and now they're moving into the territory of G2 Esports. Their only way to that point is if they actually break through this line, but Fshekoughh uses that Spite again.
And not having the King Bomb, one of the things that gave Evil Eye a distinct advantage so far. 77% looking to charge it up. They're getting a couple kills. They're going to be able to break through. But there's Bittner behind them looking for a couple kills, or at least a distraction as Jera dances alone on the point.
But Doseps, he has his eyes on Jera. One shot away from death. Has the inflamed power with him as well. As G2 Esports stop it at that 81%. Manage to move through. And it's the same scenario that we saw about 45 seconds ago where Fnatic had moved past and were attempting to lock him out. It's G's2 turns to do that. But Bittner, he uses the Evil Mojo and goes down!
Where are you right now? You are in Fnatic's base. You are taking a lot of space, but you're not going to be there if Fnatic slips by, and you can see that's been the case. Fshekoughh does go down. Theo looking to be the next one to fall as the damage is just getting poured into him. 84 to 81 through time and space. Clears off the point for a second, but G2's still hanging around.
Fine enough to dodge in the meantime. 99% right now. Fnatic, you got to do something about this. Bodies and Vex picking it up. As Bittner, he's back. He takes out that front line on the opposite end, but Vex, he's throwing out these heals. He's keeping Doseps topped off, and that is enough for G2 Esports to take the game and keep themselves in this set.
The tension between those two booths was palpable. Like, you could feel it in the air. There was like lightning about to surge with that, and G2 feeling comfortable, but it took a little bit to get there at the end where they were like, okay, no one's here from Fnatic to actually worry about. There were so many things, especially at that initial engagement. The thing that I think gives G2 an advantage is that Master Riding. 4 of them have Master Riding going into that. They get there, which stops Bugsy from having that ability to throw someone off the map. He's not in a spot to do so, and they kind of lock them in this really weird corridor fight, and it ends up kind of going back and forth. Everyone loses their ult. Everyone kind of wipes. G2 end up going back to base, but that's exactly what they needed.
Well, it was awkward because you heard all these ultimate cues, and then you look and, oh, no ultra up. There's nothing on the kill feed yet either. All right, when is something going to actually happen towards one team or the other? But luckily for G2, they were able to pull it together and take the win in the game. Comes down to a single game then for who's going home and who's staying in it. Desk, what did you think?
I thought that was some wild, wild west Paladins
So
right there.
weird, dude.
I mean, Gus was out there in the free range just by the base. You had nobody who touched the point for the 30 seconds and no deaths, yet everyone's
least
fighting.
30
Yeah,
seconds.
it was wild to say the least.
That was so weird. So much happens there. I mean, we got up to come. We were watching it in our break room. We come up because we thought the game was over.
Right.
5 up, G2. They're pushing Baron down.
All ults.
And we sit down and
Yeah.
no, they held somehow,
Okay.
right? They held.
All right.
Okay, how did they hold? Doesn't matter. Get into this next fight. Fnatic lives by. First of all, it takes place in like this weird G2 side of the map off the point.
Yeah.
Fnatic gets 2 kills after being just like 10% HP. I don't know how he brought that back. Era must have slipped him a heal or something.
Yeah.
But it just didn't even stop there.
It was a big trade on the Keough there in that 2v1. I know exactly what you're talking about. And what was also interesting is Evil Eye goes aggressive into the top side for a King Bomb. And he actually notices that everyone is pulled away except Theo. Theo and him end up having an engagement. And he actually dies to Theo off of the seismic crash that Theo ults. Now, that ult isn't available later on in the fight when they might have used it once Fnatic had won the point to zone away G2. What was most crucial, though, I think, Nick, is the fact that Keough, what looked like a crazy play, was that he zoned out Jera, who could not apply the Astral Marks for the damage, and he couldn't just get the healing, and Bittner was a little late to the fight.
You know what, man? I think you're right, because the more I think about this, there's no reason G2 should have been winning this fight. They have this crap King Bomb from Evil Eye. They have this crap Inflame from Vex that just kills a half-health Gera by himself. The entire team gets inflamed for basically no reason. Fnatic, he gets a 2-for-1. He comes back, he gets 2 more, trades out 1-for-1.
Yep.
And I'm like, where in that span of events does G2 bring it back? And it's
the dismount.
It had to be that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's such a big thing on Ice Mines that makes the difference, right? Because Keough and his team, all with Master Riding, they get back. I mean, they've already got.
You may as well have killed Jera twice.
Exactly, and now Jera has to walk, and they're riding that fast. And you see when they go to the point, there's 3 members of G2. Now we talked about that in Flame. Off cast, we're not going to talk too much about it on cast because I Drop Bodies uses that one, which might have been a little bit overkill, as it was like literally just one person on the point. But I think that overall his the Furia performance, from Vex was really strong, and I think that's what kept them in this game and kept helping them to stay, I think, available in these long fights.
You see a couple of those big juicy heals come through, especially in that 1v1s when Fnatic's diving. If he gets forced into a billow, that allows Cauterize to fall off. That allows that massive heal to happen, and the Inflame was very important. I thought that was a great composition from G2 in a very, very well-orchestrated game.
Well, I was very...
up until the end, that was just wild.
Yeah, that was wild. And that, that's what it's like. 5 guys on each side fighting for that chance. And G2 have now used maybe all of their blessings and grace to just get themselves in a position to not be out of the tournament. So you got to wonder how much left do they have in the tank, because they've got to play one more match, and this one will decide whether G2 Esports goes home today or Fnatic.
And it will be obviously the Fnatic pick coming through here. Losers pick after the first 2 games in any amount of sets. Best of 3, best of 5, best of 7. It doesn't matter. They've done pretty well here. And now we got to switch gears. I mean, we definitely bulked up on Ice Mines. Got a couple of close range, control-oriented picks. Long lines of sights here on a smaller map. It's going to lend itself to snipers and mobility to cross the big gaps.
And it's going to really lend less crazy strats and I think more mechanical skill. It's going to give a lot more of their players like Bittner or Fnatic a chance, despite maybe being outplayed from things like a Master Riding or easy dismount, stuff like that.
How about this Pip, too, though, man? From Tenor.
Yeah.
He's top damage basically the whole game.
It's really good. I mean, and it's not that Pip has been changed to be not very good.
He got nerfed. I think Moxie got nerfed, and that's basically all that's changed about him.
I mean, people were doing well with Pip before Moxie became a thing. I mean, it is great, but it's not like, people weren't slaying with Buck before some of his nerfs, and obviously those aren't present, I believe, in this LAN, but it's still coming and is in the live patches. I just think that, overlooking champions is just a constant of any high-level esport with this many opportunities to pick characters.
G2 clearly have done their homework.
They know the
on
Ashe.
Fnatic on Frog Isle. They get rid of a pick that hasn't been banned. It's only been picked looked like once this tournament. Strix will go. Kinessa still on the board. G2 have to mull over whether or not they want to give that up. It would mean leaving Makoa open.
And Theo right there, your man on the screen, knows he's been banned out by G2 multiple games in a row. The first game, unfortunately, they gave him his favorite character, Makoa. And that still seems likely unless G2 are willing to trade out a potential loss of Furia here by banning the Makoa. This will say a lot.
You know, Theo's not that guy that's like gonna like whine and moan about, I want to get it, let me have it.
Yeah.
I think he's basically, he's close to like the ideal player, you know what I mean? He loves playing a front line. He just wants to get better at it. He does all kinds of spreadsheets and stats and just gives it up to you objectively and say, this is what I got for you, right? He doesn't try to sway one way or another.
Yeah. Not too biased, and again, willing to do his part as a team player, and that's kind of always been his mentality. It's a very likable guy. And Dosip's the captain for G2 Esports now as a decision. They've lost the Furia, which was the key to their first victory in this set, coming just moments ago on Ice Mines. So they have to have a new strategy here. No snipers in play, but the Makoa certainly is. I don't think they can afford to give that up. Nick, I think the combo might be, do we take the Barrack and the Makoa? Do we just gimp them on the front line side? And they're going to opt for the Willow here.
Willow Leon, I was going to say, you got to scoop the Leon with that. If Fnatic don't take the Furia there, it makes it way too easy for G2 to pick up with 2 picks in their second phase. But when you really want a Willow, you really need a Leon too, because we've seen some damage be done by Leons to Willows.
But is Willow just, I mean, you know, on Frog Isle, she's going to be up in the air for her ult, but you could use that when there's pressure in other places. I like, obviously, that Leon is on G2's team, but you give up so much in the potential of their frontline selection. It's Inara, it's Makoa, it's everything, and that's, to me, where G2 have really rolled the dice.
Well, the counter argument there is that they've picked up so much innate anti-heal that it doesn't matter that they've given up Furia. That it doesn't matter that they'll give up Inara. That it doesn't matter they've left Bulk open as well, because there's so much innate anti-heal for G2. And if they play it properly, they could do very well for themselves. Drogo's left open for the first time, and for the first time it will be locked in for Fasheko.
And Fasheko obviously deadly on the Willow or the Drogos. And interesting to know that G2, knowing the Drogos was available, opted to give that away. But you look at Makoa, you look at Fury, you look at Drogos, Fnatic, really solid lineup thus far. G2 Esports have the Fernando hovered over.
I think you need Barrack here, because I'm getting flashbacks to when Fnatic played Na'Vi on Frog Isle. They need something. Oh, well, they have Immortal, and that's going to work. That's going to serve the same purpose, the point I'm trying to make here.
The Dome Shield?
When they just, they need something
stall
to hard fall back on, because Fnatic will gas pedal them at some point. Hard with Inflame.
Well, this is interesting. Now you would expect Cuss and Doe to be on these front lines respectively, and now the player you're most likely looking for here is just Vex. And he's not worried. Obviously, the Furia picked up, so G2.
Cassie's still open as well on Frog Isle, going into the 8th and 9th pick of this draft. When
so
otherwise she's been banned and picked. They were really switching gears here, and I feel like it's just the Willow and Leon and all that anti-heal being left open. It puts Buck in a weird spot, and it just makes them want other things. And it looks like Cassie is one of those things. They'll get the Barrack as well.
All right, so maybe playing from range, not betting it on diving, and more just betting it on out shooting them from safety, having a little bit more of
I think it's smart.
Anti-heal in their kit as well to deal with the Inara. And here's where you have the question, G2. Do you go to something interesting like your Mega Potion Pip with your 2 front lines? You have a lot of damage coming at you, and an Astral Mark is going to be a little bit, I don't know, not a disaster, but it's definitely not going to get you out of those danger situations.
Damba, Genos.
Wow.
Saris, what the?
Wow.
Man, this is the risk. Best of 3, 1 game apiece, rock solid draft either side. G2 go to the Saris.
I think they go for this because of how well SSG pulled this off on Timber Mill. Dyron ran Saris against them, and they won all but the last point on that map, and it was so effective in basically just sustaining him. And I think this is going to be interesting. We said Spunky underrates, feels Saris is underrated here.
He's basically the only one. It's Frog Isle more often than not that he does pull it out on. So G2, they've seen it work.
And I think they might try to make it work here. If not, they're going home. Fnatic, G2, best of 3, game 3 coming at you.
so close to knowing who goes home and who moves on. But Ceres often goes forgotten. We're like, there's the Moldamba, the Pib, Genos, and Ceres.
I feel like we've even gotten used to seeing Grover before Ceres in a lot of the, especially when it's an NA draft as well. It's just like one of those things that she doesn't get to come out as often. This is a map where I'm kind of curious. Mortal Reach has always been the one I think players always lean towards, but this is really good for Void Abide since everyone's relatively close-knit. You can get your heals kind of spread out.
Especially with double front line if they're
I'm curious.
Staying close or anything. And interesting draft because you take away the Kinessa because you had a feeling that's exactly what they were going for. But you leave the Makoa open. And I want to see this Willow and how that does, because some people have been able to do really great with this pick. Everyone else has looked kind of meh.
You can see Vex. This is, I named my Ceres loadout pretty much very similar to this. Just stay alive. Like, this is your goal. You're going to heal, and you're going to stay alive. That is your goal. That is your job. Cuss is so low in the healing. That's going to be the downside of Ceres.
And then now a little bit of Fnatic push up onto that side stairwell. Theo on this Makoa sees where Willow is, a heavy hit, and a hook onto Leon. Gets a bit of protection, but moves back and dies.
They're going to end up needing a lot to perform here from G2. They've done a lot of risky stuff. I would say just in terms of what Fnatic has picked up, several picks that they are known for making work on this map and just all around. Versus G2, which has some good counters on it, but they have to have a much higher execution threshold because it's going to be a little bit more unfamiliar. And as of right now, Fnatic, they're sitting in the driver's seat comfortably.
0 to 100 this time for Fnatic, and they are getting kill after kill after kill. Because even with some of the things you stripped away from them, look at these picks. You have the Barracks been working out really well, despite whoever it's on. Theo obviously loves his Makoa, and then Drogo's Cassie. It's such a solid, sturdy, aggressive, but I can just plant myself here and do my work kind of draft.
Being able to come around, this is probably, well, not probably, this is the last bin. This is usually where it starts to get a little bit tougher overall to be able to make sure you can actually push in everything. It's a little bit more difficult. And with the way things are going, you can kind of see why, although Bittner getting 2 kills right there is going to make it a lot easier for Fnatic to regroup and repress into this payload.
Shut down for the meantime by Keough. With a minute 35 seconds to go, payload hasn't quite made it around that last bend, thanks to the fact that your angles become a bit more exposed around these rocks when it's that straight line to that final destination, which has allowed G2 Esports to push up a bit. Fnatic there all the way over towards the capture. A Fae Flight into the sky so Evil Eye can shoot these from afar. Gets a bit of damage onto Theo, but he's already tanky as it is and isn't too threatened by it.
I mean, you're looking at some zoning, some dismounts, some good shots from the air, but again, you're just up in the air and really kind of hoping for the best. It doesn't stall Fnatic too much, maybe buys you a little bit of time, but you are incredibly low and actually getting chased down. Here comes the Dragon Punch looking for a tank.
Over the rock and through the woods, but goes back to his starting place. Sees that that convergence was thrown out and did not want to get pulled into it. So 45 seconds to go. Kills in the immediate recent time, but still just far damage to that backline of G2 Esports that are waiting for the opportunity to pop out, and Lightman slings light past.
Being able to get a nice salvo but not finding any kills. Not so many kills coming through from Fnatic or G2 as of right now, but being able to get rid of Bittner. Theo's incredibly low, so that's going to start the roll. That should find them at least a good amount of space they can take back and try to relocate and push Fnatic out.
So Pacheco was forced to back off, and so was Jera. Jera peeking around the wall because he had too much damage taken to him. And bodies, at that point, you don't even need to get those kills. You just need to constantly force them backwards towards their base, and that's exactly what he did.
4, last chance to touch, try to get the overtime. 2 seconds left, and they are going to be on the payload, so it's going to be going there for Fnatic. The way things are going, I have a lot of weight on the kind of half health bars on G2 to make sure they perform well, but the payload's moving forward, and honestly, this Drogo's is hitting really hard.
Ancient Rage swings away at Willow, eliminated, going in pursuit of Ceres, but has some mobility to hop around this wall, takes a couple hits to the face, and goes into the Shadow Travel to escape. Dosas himself is on his last leg of HP, finally heals up a bit with the help of his support to stay alive, but a hook into Vex as he goes down, and Fnatic push this through.
Just being able to play that beautifully. I mean, they know exactly who they want to focus, who they want to get rid of. G2, it almost feels as though, I don't want to say they've been outdrafted, because it just feels as though they aren't hitting the strides that you want on these champions. I didn't see a lot of presence. Their Leon games, again, haven't been phenomenal the last few times we've seen it. And with the way both of them, that and Willow, Leon and Willow, are supposed to work here, I just didn't feel the presence from that. Keough died really early on in that last point, and it kind of felt like it was just a perpetual stagger. Every now and then you got some pushbacks, but, I mean, look at their slash lines. Not that many kills. They have 5 all across the board. 4 of them are on Keough.
And there was a moment that looked decent for them, but the timing of it within that push was enough to delay, but not enough to completely close out the push potential. So it was a little early enough where Fnatic could regroup. And now they're back into it for round number 2. Shows a scout, so that means that they have complete vision of these locations of G2 Esports for a short time. A nice stun onto Doseps, who takes too much damage following that Pyre strike.
This feels very good for Fnatic. You can assume that this is part of the reason they chose this map. They are looking solid. They get rid of both front lines. Now they're just going to be chasing down the support, and the damage all going to go down. Evil Eye does get a return kill, but I mean a 1 for 5 essentially.
And Doseps right now gets dismounted, runs into the face of the 2 frontliners on the opposite end. Keough finishes it off. A dome shield so aggressively towards G2, so they can't even rotate. Keough with the double kill. A Fae Flight attempt from Evil Eye so that he can reach far into that backline of Fnatic, but too healthy for the time being. Take out that sustain. Furia off the table. Bittner picks it up onto Evil Eye, but it's 99% for Fnatic right now as overtime continues.
There's going to be the Convergence pulling in the Dragon, looking for the kills, and they're going to be able to find 2 off of the back of that. This is the pushback from G2 that you've been looking for, but that's not over yet. Bittner, as long as he's alive, is a threat.
Boy, he gets that tremendous heal back up to full as Doseps takes out Bugsy, but still, that 99% for Fnatic looks mighty threatening, even with that comeback mechanic for G2 Esports, still making a little bit of leeway. But Fnatic are regrouped. They've re-brought themselves into this fight, with Theo there in the middle of the action.
Now being able to dash back in, Keough standing in the middle of it all. Dead zone going to be thrown down, but it might be a little bit too late. Keough is already gone. That's a 3rd point for Fnatic.
So close, G2. When on the desk they were talking about having ultimates like Immortal to be able to reset and pull back and hard change the pace of that fight, and it worked in that moment. And Fnatic was taken off guard. They couldn't find a way to break through that barrier, but came back to it. Comeback mechanic still wasn't fast enough for G2 to be able to close that.
And again, you're seeing this aggression come down, specifically Theo on Keough levels of aggression. He got comfortable early on in this set being able to play that, and I feel like he is hitting the exact same strides. He is in their face, he's causing trouble. You put Keough on Drogoz, they get so many of their top tier picks. And Fnatic, I mean, 1 minute and 50 seconds left. They're at about 60% on the push. They are comfortable.
And remember, this is lower bracket, everyone, so whoever loses this game is out entirely from the summer finals. So along the line from these top seeds of the regions. Keough picks it out onto Keough. So Theo repositions himself, finds that there's 3 of them in the entryway of this spawn area. But you know what? Go ahead and emote. That's okay. He can't swing at them while they're in their spawn, but he still forced them to stay in there. And because of that, the rest of the team put in that work, and Fnatic take the victory, sending G2 home.
What's the opposite of a bouncer? Like, bouncers keep you out of a club. What's the thing that keeps you in? Like, well, I guess other than atmosphere and drinks.
Maybe just the bouncer doing a 180.
Doing a 180? No, you're not allowed on the street. Wrong shoes.
The DJ, I guess, pulls everybody in, maybe, something like that. That was crazy. And the thing is, they also said it over on the desk. We said at the cast where it was game number 2 was so insane and so weird, and G2 got the victory. But then you have to think, okay, what are you going to do to keep, you can't recreate a situation as unique as that.
It's just a lot of energy in that Ice Mines map, especially for that last fight. A lot of good drafting from G2 for Ice Mines to make that go their way. But then when it came to that map, I mean, you give up Cassie, you give up Drogoz, you give up Keough, you give up Fear. It doesn't even matter what the 5th person is. They have 3 picks out of those 4 that are staples for Fnatic, and a 4th one that's starting to become a staple in Furia.
And that's why I feel there's been all this talk about Willow being a powerful pick, and she can be, but if you're not showing out the way we've seen Keough, for instance, do it, then it feels a bit like dead weight. You see a Fae Flight happen, and you think, okay, there was maybe half of someone's bar, but what else is happening from that? But congrats to Fnatic for keeping themselves in this. The fight is not over for them just yet, but we're going to send things back over to the analyst desk.
Well, what an incredible game. We at least can come through after this, whether you're a G2 or a Fnatic fan, with saying that was a great set of Paladins.
Absolutely there. And it just gets a little bit weird for me in the draft for G2. I think, you know, we talked a lot about it. It makes sense, right? You know, they dissuade certain things with the Leon, the Willow. They don't like the Buck coming through. It's going to cancel out a lot of the synergy between like an Inara pickup that would have happened. But it's like, Fnatic just went to a completely different win condition and won with that.
To me, it's like picking your poison, knowing you have to have a poison no matter what.
Have to drink it nonetheless.
But also putting yourself, it's like, all right, chop off your leg to pick your poison. It's like, well, I'm getting poison no matter what. I'm at least keep both legs until I got to take the poison. And I think they leave the Drogos open, which to me is wild. That's an Evil Eye carry on Frog Isle. They've said it themselves. Give Evil Eye on Frog Isle, we feel good. They bet on the Ceres, which, hey, Vex plays out of his mind round one to just keep them alive for as long as they did, but doesn't have the same potential, doesn't have the same bot potential. You know, giving up the Furia, the way that they banned, I think the way that they, I use the word gimp themselves, but I just feel like despite these plays, they made it so hard to have a matchup that was even from the get-go with Fnatic as a result of this draft.
The amount of times the momentum changed hands in this set is just astronomical. It's crazy that even after that play, we just saw that Fnatic were able to bring that one back. And at that point, that's being down 3-0 in this best-of-3 with your back against the absolute wall. And I don't know, that is a point that is mentally tough to come back from for G2.
And Bittner has an emphatic game as well as for Keough. It's a good sign for Fnatic as they move forward. Obviously showing flexibility, showing resilience to bounce back from that loss in Game 2, albeit very close.
Right. That's what's key. We talked about how important it was for Fish and Bittner to get off to a good start, and they did. And even in that loss, it was still such a good, close game. Tenor still top damage. No one's getting obliterated on Fnatic. That it's very easy to just kind of hang your head high after that one. And it was so weird, so much chaos that there's really even no glaring mistakes that you can point at that they made, right? So there's nothing to be sad about in that loss for Fnatic. And I think mentally they've got to be feeling good about the rest of their day.
And I think the draft starts to set them apart there. I mean, you talk about a champion, as you hear the pop-off, you just talk about a champion like a Furia that full heals you versus another healer that doesn't do the same thing, and maybe that's just the small difference, and that's just a draft difference. It's not the fact that, you know, you hit your heal worse, man. That right click you did was way worse than that player's right click. It's like that's just the way it goes, and these long engagements tend to favor the draft that's built towards that. And I think Fnatic a little more execution heavy in set 2, didn't do it, but in game 3 we're able to bring it home with some thunderous momentum. Now, obviously, they will be moving on in the losers bracket, and let's take a look at what that looks like. They will be facing the winners of Team Envy and Clown Fiesta, who have climbed back and will fight their probably hardest test in just a few moments.
You know, admittedly, you got to give this one to Team Envy. Clown Fiesta have had a purely international bracket up until this point. They've played Keough twice. They play Armada. This is the first time they're having to go up against a PPL caliber team, and it will truly test their mettle.
Yeah, and I think Envy are prepared for this. They want to get there, face Fnatic. And when you see Fnatic and Envy maybe showing up, you know, that's a rematch of Vegas finals in May. That's exciting stuff because Envy last time got the better end of Fnatic there. We have all that and more coming up. We're going to take a quick post-game interview to check in with our winners and see how they're doing after that match.
Well, congratulations to Fnatic for keeping yourselves in the fight. The first thing I want to know is game number 2, that last fight that happened where there wasn't any capture for a good 30 seconds or so. What was going on? Walk us through that.
Well, I think what G2 does a lot in games is they have a really strong initial engagement, and they have everything based on that. And if that doesn't work out, then we surely get control back. So they went for the hard engagement, we fell back, but they just kept engaging into us. And I think the point was just a secondary objective by them at that point.
So after game 2, like a lot of energy expend at like the tail end of Ice Mines. You're going into Frog Isle and it's your map pick, and then you get Furia and you get Makoa. Like, how did it feel getting a draft that essentially looked like a dream draft for you?
I just want to play Furia.
Pretty much. I want to play Makoa, Fish wanted Drogo, so we made it happen.
Yeah, as a unit, that draft worked out really well. And the frontline performance and throughout the games, I want to just talk about your ability in game number 1 to be spread across the map entirely on Ascension Peak. So was that your goal to try and put yourself in that position to get those hooks whenever you could?
Well, the entire point of that game was to play it easy. The entire tournament we've been rushing things way too much where we just want to do things. That game we just took it easy. We just playing it slow, looking for opportunities, and hooking with Mikael becomes a lot easier if you don't rush yourself to get them. You just kind of chill and wait for it and then align the crosshair.
Play patiently and wait for your time, and then when your time hits, then go for it.
Yeah.
So you'll be playing against the winner of Envy and Clown Fiesta. Is there a team that you'd rather end up see winning that set to face you, or are you kind of feeling the same about either of them?
I kind of want Envy to win, personally. I would gotta say his sport, but I guess we lost to G2 in the finals once, we've lost to Navi in the finals once, we've lost to Envy in the finals once. So if we can make it all the way back to the finals and win, then we have our payback against every team. But I think Clown Fiesta is a really good team, and Umbi is a good friend.
I want Clown to win because EU.
Fair enough. Well, you have a little bit of a break until the next time you play. Maybe you'll bust a soccer ball back out and relax, and best of luck in your next match.
The football.
Thanks.
Oh, true. Football.
Thank
My
you.
bad.